photo on your screen was a key piece of evidence in the trial of George Zimmerman for the murder of Trayvon Martin.
This is the picture that Officer Wagner took at your request, right?
Yes.
First of all, this does fairly and accurately depict his nose and his face, correct, as you saw it?
Yes.
Yesterday, the one juror who has spoken to the press cited the evidence of Zimmerman's injuries as the most significant factor leading to the not guilty verdict. In this video, I will present a case that this photo has been altered via digital photo editing software to make Zimmerman's injuries appear more serious than they actually were. Normally, I don't engage in conspiracy theories. I mean, history tells us that conspiracies of various sorts do happen often enough, but almost all of the conspiracy theories that float through public discussion are based on wild speculation, willful thinking, a highly questionable cherry-picking of supporting evidence, and a blind eye to telling counter-evidence. Yet I find myself offering an analysis of this photo that necessarily invokes a very troubling conspiracy. I've sat on my thoughts about this for a long time in the hopes that some authoritative commentary would appear that resolves the questions in my mind. That has not happened. Let me say up front that I am not a medical professional, and my knowledge of facial injuries is limited to that of a moderately well-educated layperson who has done some additional internet research on facial anatomy. I would like nothing more than for a physician who really knows this stuff to comment on this analysis and tell me whether they think I'm onto something or I'm totally off the mark, and explain why in either case. Viewers, please note I will be moderating comments on this video and publishing only those that offer some sort of informed opinion on the subject at hand. Okay, here we go. On December 3rd, 2012, the defense in the George Zimmerman case released this color photo of Zimmerman taken the evening the defendant shot and killed Trayvon Martin. The blogosphere soon produced a substantial number of comments opining that the picture had been photoshopped. I was initially more than skeptical of these claims, especially since most of what these posts were pointing to as evidence of manipulation could easily be explained by the camera angle, the lighting, or the characteristics of the cell phone camera with which it was taken. But then a post drew my attention to the contours of Zimmerman's nose in the photo. There's something about the nose that just doesn't look right. I began to look at the appearance of the nose in more detail. I wound up concluding that it could not appear as it does here without the photo having been doctored. Subject, of course, to being told otherwise by a qualified doctor. Anyway, if I'm right, this is not a trivial matter. Although the photo was released to the public by the defense, it had been given to them by the prosecution. A poor quality black and white version of the photo had been included in the prosecution's first evidence dump in May of 2012. Thus, the only persons who had access to the photo before its initial passage from the state to the defense team, the only persons who would have been in a position to alter it, are members of the Sanford Police Department, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, and the state's attorney's office. As such, if the photo has indeed been manipulated, then some public official has been tampering with evidence in a criminal investigation, not for the sake of securing an unjust conviction, that would be bad enough, but in an attempt to aid the accused in beating the rap. Serious shit, to say the least. According to official state documents, the photo was taken by Officer Michael Wagner of the Sanford Police at 7:31 p.m. on the evening of February 26, 2012. Zimmerman had been taken into custody by SPD Officer Timothy Smith, handcuffed, and placed in the back seat of Smith's squad car. Zimmerman had not yet been seen by the paramedics, who would later clean up and dress his wounds. Wagner took the photo with his personal iPhone 4S. According to the police records, he took the phone home, uploaded the photo to his computer, erased it from the phone, and then forgot that he had it. He claims he only remembered having the photo some 3 weeks later when the investigators on the case mentioned that they had no pictures of Zimmerman's injuries before he was attended to by the EMTs. On March 18, 2012, Wagner turned the photo over to the investigators via email. So we have approximately a 3-week gap between the time the photo was taken and the time it was taken into possession by the investigators, and that's plenty of time for a skilled photo editor to come up with a convincing-looking alteration of an original image. To my eye, the primary evidence of falsification here comes from comparing Zimmerman's nose in this photo to other photos of Zimmerman that were taken by a police photographer at the Sanford police station around 11:20 p.m. on the night of the shooting. Here is how Zimmerman appears in 2 of those photos for comparison. All right, let's take a closer look at Zimmerman's nose. The Wagner photo in the center shows swelling on the right side of Zimmerman's nose, the left side of the nose in the picture. This swelling is not present in the pictures taken at the police station. But let's say for the moment that a swelling of this nature could have subsided back to normal over the course of almost 4 hours. But look at the bridge of Zimmerman's nose, between his eyes and just below. The structure of the human nose is made up of 3 different kinds of material. The bridge, the top of the nose, is a thin layer of skin over the facial bones that form the front of the skull. You can feel this by pressing the bridge of your own nose. It's solid bone under there. Below that in the nose, bone gives way to cartilage, forming the septum and the upper flare of the nostrils. My problem with the Wagner photo, in a nutshell, is that it appears to show serious damage to the bones forming the bridge of the nose, and I cannot imagine that any displacement and deformation of actual bone could heal and return to normal appearance within 4 hours, at least not without major medical intervention. It would be one thing if we were just talking about some sort of swelling or increase in the size of the nose, but the bridge of Zimmerman's nose is narrower in the Wagner photo than in the SPD photos. This cannot be explained by camera angle or lighting variations. You may note that the small wound toward the top right of the septum seems to be in a different vertical position in each of the 3 photos. This is just a result of each picture being taken from a different vertical angle in relation to the plane of Zimmerman's face. What we're looking for is how the wound relates to the slope of the nose from the top of the bridge down to the corner of the eye, the shape of the nose bridge, and its overall width. The photo on the left was taken with Zimmerman looking directly at the camera, so the wound appears closer to the center of the nose line, and the fall-off of each side of the nose takes up a similar distance in the image. The Wagner photo and the photo on the right were each taken with Zimmerman's head turned just slightly to his right in relation to the lens, resulting in a bit of foreshortening on the right side of his face, moving the wound a bit to his right and making the fall-off of the right side of the nose shorter than that of the left side. Again, Zimmerman's right is the left side of the picture as you look at it. Thus, the photo screen right makes for a better comparison to the Wagner photo in the middle. Let's look at the discrepancies between the 2 photos one by one. In the screen right photo, we can see a decent portion of Zimmerman's nose ridge to the screen left side of the wound, and also see the side of his nose sloping down towards the corner of his eye. In the Wagner photo, the wound seems to be on the very screen left of the nose ridge, and there is no visible sloping away towards the eye. Above the wound in the Wagner photo, the nose bridge curves inward to such a degree that its edge is closer to the center line of the nose than the wound is to the center line. This results in the bridge being dramatically narrower than it is in the other photos, as I've already mentioned. This curve also leads to the Wagner photo showing 2 dramatic changes of direction in the line of Zimmerman's nose ridge, whereas this line is perfectly straight in the other photo. Note the relationship between the corner of Zimmerman's right eye and the slope of the nose bridge in the Wagner photo as compared to the photo screen right. In the right-hand photo, that slope goes right to the corner of the eye. In the Wagner photo, where there is no visible slope to speak of, we see some kind of circular fold of skin between the eye and the rising point of the nose. Here is a split screen of the 2 photos, showing the different width of the nose bridge. Due to different camera angles, camera perspectives, and focal lengths, the two heads cannot be lined up exactly, but I've gotten the nose areas as close as I can, using the uninjured left edge of the nose and the eyebrows as points of reference. Finally, here are some frame grabs from the surveillance camera footage of George Zimmerman entering the Sanford police station at 7:54 p.m., less than half an hour after the timestamp on the Wagner photo and 3.5 hours before the other photos were taken. Zimmerman's nose appears normal in these images to the extent you can see it. To be honest, the resolution of these stills is very poor, the image is filled with compression artifacts, and the lighting casts uneven shadows on Zimmerman's face that could obscure the actual condition of his nose. While I would expect the highlight ridges down the centers of Zimmerman's nose to show deviation in these stills if the nose was bent as badly as the Wagner photo shows, I can't rightly say that the fact the highlight ridges appear straight here is truly definitive. If I close here on a less than conclusive note, that's only fitting, given that this is only my layman's take on the medical issues involved. Still, I don't see in sum how the Wagner photo can exist in the same universe as the other photos taken of Zimmerman that night. My hope, again, is that some qualified physicians will see this video and weigh in on the issue one way or the other.
What did you say when you first looked at it?
I said I didn't know who it was.
Because even though you knew George Zimmerman from seeing him in a few meetings, you couldn't tell?
No, he didn't look the same.
Why not?
I just didn't recognize him, and I mean, obviously there's a lot going on there.